It's Our Story. Don Russell, Denver, Colorado.
Because, I claim always. I claim the Mississippi Delta as my home, and I claim Memphis second, because that's where I was institutionalized. And I was in the same city with Elvis, right? And there's all that Mississippi and Memphis connection with Elvis, and it just all felt right to me. But so I claim both places, and just like just like the piece of why I claim Memphis and all of that is, and Mississippi, and I won't let either one of them go, is because I never wanted to leave the South. I didn't want to leave the South when I left, but only Denver, only the Mecca and Atlantis, was going to get me out of there. But in 1979, I was in 9th grade. In the school that I went to school in, and imagine, I look back at it now, I think the last time my mama ever picked me up and tried to put me on her hip was when I was 28. Picture this, look at me. Picture this, of a woman trying to put me on her hip at 28 years old, right? Or me 28 and she's trying to carry me like that. And I was like, this is absurd. You have lost your mind. But the reason I mention that is because the school that I went to, right, was right across the street from my house. They did that intentionally, and all of this stuff. Well, I would be carried over to school because I walked so damn slow, which should have been the first clue not to do in the first place, right? But I walked slow, and so I'd be carried over on one of their hips to school, all the way up until the 9th grade. I think I finally got my first manual wheelchair in the 6th grade, okay? But imagine, I didn't go to kindergarten because I had a disability, and the kindergarten class wasn't prepared for me and all of that stuff. So, I start out in the 1st grade, and so from 1st grade to 6th grade, I was either being carried to the school and then put down on my 2 feet with those stupid crutches in front of me, hoping that I'm not about to fall on my face. And so then in the 6th grade, I end up with the wheelchair. And that particular school went all the way from kindergarten to 9th grade. And we're in the middle of my 9th grade year. And my mama says to me, QC, the Quitman County High, the public school wasn't accessible. And I had to make a decision. She said, you can either go to a private school, and a private school in Mississippi meant, it didn't mean that it was for people that could pay that price. It was about black and white. And I said, I will not go to a private school. So I had to leave the Delta to go to school, so I wouldn't end up in a private school. And the day I graduated high school, which was May 17th, 1983, I moved home to the Mississippi Delta, and I would have never gone to Texas, but I spent the last 3.5 years of school to avoid. Huh?
What was the name of that school?
Livingston High School. That's where I graduated in Texas. That's not where I wanted to go, but it was a better option.
Is that a regular school?
Yeah.
Regular high school?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they had elevators and and all of that stuff.
You mentioned institution.
Mhm.
When did that?
In 1968, I was 3 years old, and my daddy finally decided, okay, there's something wrong. It took him 3 years to say that there was anything wrong with me, kind of thing. And at that point, I know a lot now. much better than I did then. But now, so imagine 1968, and I'm living in the Mississippi Delta, and daddy's admitted that I have this disability and all of this stuff, and so they start being the good parents that they are. And at that time, they thought that that was their only choice. And so what would happen was I would go in for 6 months, and then I'd come out for 6 months. I'd go in for 6 months, come out for 6 months. And, there may have been some variation in the months.
Do you remember what happened?
Oh, my God. Oh, yes, I remember what happened. Absolutely. And there's some things, and there's a person here that I told you she just went back to Memphis. She was in the same institution as me. But I wanted to tell you what I now know as an adult, and you can take me back to the nursing home and ask me more questions. What I know as an adult is on that half the time that I would be out of the institution, we had to go to therapy every week. And, whether I was, locked up or whatever, my mom and daddy never, ever missed a visiting day. And there's a great story behind that. They never missed a visiting day, ever. And we never missed a doctor's appointment, when I was out. He would take me every week, to that stuff. Well, what I now know is that every week that I had to go there, it was so important to me that I walk in there. Because in my head, I understood that if I didn't perform well, that I was going to be locked back up, right? So no matter what, no matter whether the weather was bad or anything, and I remember there are pictures of me that I insisted on walking into Campbell's clinic, and I was using the stupid crutches, and I'm walking in the rain, and my daddy's trying to convince me to carry me in. And I said, no, Daddy, if they see you carry me in, they'll lock me up, right? And so I was walking through, I made it through all the rain, and the second that rubber tip met that slick floor that they had just, polished with the big machine and stuff, what happened? The crutches went out from under me, and I hit face first. Well, guess who landed their ass back in the institution but me? But what I know as an adult, and fighting this whole system, is they had an empty bed. It wasn't about my performance. It wasn't about anything. I was being lied to, and so was my parents. They were under the idea that it's about me and where I am with my disability, but the truth of it is they had an empty bed that they wanted to fill. Okay? So, and that happened from age 3 to 13.
The It's Our Story project is a national effort to make disability history public and accessible. Visit us at www.itsourstory.org or on the It's Our Story project YouTube channel.